Scripture portions of the day. Day 356.
Mark 7, OENT. The Pharisees and the scribes who come from Jerusalem gathered around him, and they saw some of his disciples eating bread, and they had not washed their hands, and they found fault. For all the Judeans and the Pharisees do not eat unless they wash their hands carefully, because they keep the tradition of the elders. And coming from the marketplace, unless they bathe, they do not eat. And there are many other things which they had received to keep, washings of cups and pots, copper vessels, and of beds. And the traditions and Pharisees asked him, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the traditions of the elders, and keep but eat bread without washing their hands?" But he said to them, Isaiah the prophet prophesied because of you are phonies. Just as it is written, "This people honor me with their lips, but their heart is very far from me. And in vain they pay reverence to me as they teach doctrines of the commandments of the sons of men. You forsake the commandments of Elohim, and you keep the traditions of the Son of Men, washing of cups and pots, and many such things like these." He said to them, "Well, you reject the commandment of Elohim, that you may establish your traditions. For Moses said, 'Honor your mother and your father,' and whoever reviles father and mother shall die the death. But you say, if a man shall say to his father and his mother, 'My offering is anything that you shall gain from me,' then you do not allow him to do anything for his father or his mother. And you reject the word of Elohim for the traditions that you were delivered, and many things like these you do." And Yeshua cried to all the crowds, and he said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside of a man that enters into him that can defile him, but things that proceed from him, that is what defiles the man. Whoever has an ear, let him hear." But when the Yeshua entered the house from the crowds, his disciples asked him about the parable. And they said to him, "Are you also stupid? Do you not know that nothing enters from the outside of man can defile him? Because it does not enter his heart, but his belly, and is discharged by excretion, which purifies all foods. But the thing that proceeds from a man, that defiles the man. From within the heart of children of men proceed evil ideas, adultery, fornication, theft, murder, greed, wickedness, deceit, harlotry, an evil eye, blasphemy, boasting, senselessness. All of these evils proceed from within and defile man." Yeshua rose from there and came to the coast of Tyre and Sidon, and he entered a certain house, and he did not want anyone to know him, that he could not be hidden. For immediately a certain woman heard of him, whose daughter had a foul spirit, and she came falling before his feet. But she was a pagan woman from Phoenicia of Syria, and she was begging him to cast out the demons of her daughter. And Yeshua said to her, "Let the children be filled first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she answered and said to him, "Yes, my Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Yeshua said to her, "Go, because of this saying, the demon has gone out from your daughter." And she went to her house and found her daughter lying in bed, and the demon had been cast out of her. Yeshua again went out of the coast of Tyre and Sidon and came to the Sea of Galilee on the borders of the 10 cities. And they brought him a certain deaf man who was dumb, and they begged him to lay hands upon him. And he took him aside from the crowd alone, put his fingers in his ears, and spat, and he touched his tongue. And he gazed into heaven and groaned, and he said to him, "Be opened." At that moment his ears were opened, and a bond of his tongue was released, and he spoke directly. And he warned them not to tell anyone. Inasmuch he had warned them, they all proclaimed it. And they were greatly astonished, and they were saying, "He has done everything beautifully. He has made the deaf hear, and him who has mute to speak." Exodus 34, Septuagint. And Jehovah said to Moses, Hewn for themselves 2 tablets of stone, as also the first were, and come up to me to the mountain. And I will write upon the tablets of the words which were on the first tablets which thou hast brokest. And be ready by the morning. Thou shalt go up to Mount Sinai, and shalt stand there for me on the top of the mountain. Let no one go up with thee, nor be seen in all the mountain. Let not the sheep, the oxen, feed near the mountain. And Moses hewn 2 tables of stone, also the first were. And Moses, having arisen early, went up to the Mount Sinai, as Jehovah appointed him. And Moses took the 2 tablets of stone. And Jehovah descended in a cloud, and stood near him, and called the name of Jehovah. And Jehovah passed by before his face, and proclaimed, Jehovah Elohim, pitiful and compassionate, merciful, long-suffering, very compassionate and true, and keeping justice and mercy for thousands, taking away iniquity and unrighteousness and sins, and he will not clear the guilty, bringing the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. And Moses hasted and bowed to the earth, and worshipped, and said, If I have found grace at thee, let my Elohim, Jehovah, go with us. For the people is stiff-necked, and thou shalt take away our sins and our iniquities, and we will be thine. And Jehovah said to Moses, Behold, I establish a covenant for thee in the presence of thy people, and I will do glorious things, which thou hast not done in all the earth, or in any nation, and all the people whom thou art shall see the works of Jehovah, that they are wonderful, which I do with thee. Do thou take heed for all things whatsoever I command thee. Behold, I cast out before your face the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Chetite, the Evite, the Girgasite, the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest at any time thou make a covenant with the dwellers on the land in which thou art entering, lest it be to thee a stumbling block among you. You shall destroy their altars, break their pieces, their altars and pillars, and you shall cut down their groves, graven images of their gods shall burn with fire. For ye shall not worship strange gods. For Jehovah Elohim, a jealous name, is a jealous Elohim. Lest at any time thou make a covenant with the dwellers of the land, and they go whoring after their gods, and sacrifice to their gods, and they call thee, and thou shouldest eat of their feasts. And thou shouldest take their daughters for thy sons, and thou shouldest give thy daughter to their sons, and thy daughter shall go whoring after their gods, and thy sons shall go whoring after their gods. And thou shalt not make to thyself molten images or gods. And thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened breads. 7 days you shall eat the unleavened bread, and I shall charge thee at the season of the month of the new corn, for in the month of the new corn thou camest out of Egypt. The males are mine, everything that opens the womb, every firstborn of oxen, and every born of sheep, and the firstborn of an ass, thou shalt redeem with the sheep. And if thou wilt not redeem it, and it shall thou pay the price, every firstborn of the son thou shalt redeem. Thou shalt not appear before me empty. 6 days thou shalt work, and on the 7th day shalt rest, and there shall be rest in seed time and harvest. And thou shalt keep to me the feast of weeks, beginning of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering in the middle of the year. 3 times a year you shall every male of thine appear before Jehovah thy Elohim. For when I shall have cast out of the nations before thy face, and shall enlarge thy coast, no one shall desire their land. Wherever thou mayest go to appear before Jehovah Elohim 3 times a year. Thou shalt not offer my sacrifices, the blood, with leaven, neither shall the sacrifices of the feast of the Passover remain until morning. The first fruits of thy land thou shalt put in the house of Jehovah thy Elohim, and thou shalt not boil a lamb in its mother's milk. And Jehovah said to Moses, Write these words for thyself, for on these words I have established a covenant with thee and with Israel. And Moses was there before Jehovah 40 days and 40 nights, and he did not eat bread, and he did not drink water. And he wrote on the tables these words of the covenant, the 10 sayings. And when Moses went down from the mountain, there were 2 tables in the hands of Moses. As he went down from the mountain, Moses knew not that the appearance of the skin of his face was glorified, when Elohim spoke to him. And Aaron and all his elders of Israel saw Moses, and the appearance of the skin of his face was made glorious, and they feared to approach him. Moses called to them, and Aaron and the rulers of the synagogue turned towards him, and Moses spoke to them. And afterwards all the children of Israel came to him, and he commanded them all things, whatsoever Jehovah had commanded him in Mount Sinai. And when he ceased speaking to them, he put a veil on his face. And whenever Moses went in before Jehovah to speak to him, he took off the veil until he went out. And then he went forth and spoke to all the children of Israel whatsoever Jehovah had commanded him. And the children of Israel saw the face of Moses, that it was glorified, and Moses put a veil over his face, till he went in to speak with him. Nehemiah 6, Septuagint. And it came to pass, when Sanballat and Tobias and Geshem the Arabian, and the rest of our enemies, heard that I had built the wall, and there was no opening left therein, but hitherto I had not set up the doors on the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, Come, and let us meet together in the villages in the plain of Ono. But they were plotting to do me mischief. So I sent messengers to them, saying, I am doing a great work, and I shall not be able to come down, lest the work should cease. As soon as I have finished, I will come down to you. And they sent to me again to this effect, and I sent them word accordingly. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me with an open letter in his hand, and in it was written, It has been reported among the Gentiles that thou and the Jews are planning to revolt. Therefore thou art building the wall, and thou wilt be a king to them. And moreover thou hast appointed prophets to thyself, that thou mayest dwell in Jerusalem as a king over Judah. Now these words were reported to the king. Now then, come, let us take counsel together. And I sent to him, saying, It has not been happened according to these words, even as thou sayest, for thou framest them falsely out of thine heart. For all were trying to alarm us, saying, Their hands shall be weakened from his work, and it shall not be done. Now therefore I have strengthened my hands. And I came into the house of Semai the son of Daliah, the son of Metabeel, and he was shut up. And he said, Let us assemble together in the house of Elohim, in the midst of it, and let us shut the doors of it, for they are coming by night to slay thee. And I said, Who is the man who shall enter into the house, that he may live? And I observed, and behold, Elohim not sent him, for the prophecy was fable devised against me. And Tobias and Sanballat had hired against me a multitude, that I might be frightened to do this, and sin, and become to them an ill name, that they might reproach me. Remember, O Elohim, Tobias and Sanballat, according to these their deeds, and their prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets who tried to alarm me. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of the month of Elul, in the 52 days. And it came to pass, when all our enemies heard of it, that all of the nations round about us feared, and great alarm fell upon them, and they knew that it was of our Elohim that this work should be finished. And in those days letters came to Tobias from many nobles of Judah, and those of Tobias came to them. For many in Judah were bound to him by oath, because he was son-in-law of Shechanias, the son of Hari, and Jonah, his son, had taken the daughter of Mesullam, the son of Barachiah, to wife. And they reported his words to me, and carried out my words to him, and Tobias sent letters to terrify me. Proverbs 29, Septuagint. A reprover is better than a stiff-necked man, for when the latter is suddenly set on fire, there shall be no remedy. And when the righteous are praised, the people will rejoice, and when the ungodly rule, men mourn. When a man loves wisdom, his father rejoices, but he that keeps harlots will waste wealth. A righteous king establishes a country, but a transgressor destroys it. He that prepares a net in the way of his own friend entangles his own feet in it. A great snare is spread for a sinner, but the righteous shall be in joy and gladness. A righteous man knows how to judge for the poor, but the ungodly understands not knowledge. And the poor man has not an understanding mind. Lawless men burn down a city, but wise men turn away wrath. A wise man shall judge nations, but a worthless man, being angry, laughs and fears not. Bloody men hate a holy person, but the upright shall seek his soul. A fool utters all in his mind, but the wise reserves his in part. When a king hearkens to unjust language, all his subjects are transgressors. When the creditor and debtor meet together, Jehovah oversees.
14. When a king judges the poor in truth, his throne shall be established for a testimony. 15. Stripes and reproofs give wisdom, but an erring child disgraces his parents. 16. When the ungodly abound, sins abound, but when they fall, the righteous are warned. 17. Chasten thy son, and he shall give thee rest, and he shall give honor to thy soul. 18. There shall be no interpreter to a sinful nation, but he that observes the law is blessed. 19. A stubborn servant will not be reproved by words, for even if he understands, still he will not obey. 20. If thou see a man hasty in his words, know that the fool has hope rather than he. 21. He that lives wantonly from a child shall be a servant, and in the end shall grieve over himself. 22. A furious man stirs up strife, and a passionate man digs up sin. 23. Pride brings a man low, but Jehovah upholds the humble-minded with honor. 24. He that shares with a thief hates his own soul, and if any having heard an oath uttered tell not of it. 25. They fearing and reverencing men unreasonably have been overthrown, but he that trusts in Jehovah shall rejoice. Ungodliness causes a man to stumble, but he that trusts in his master shall be safe. 26. Many wait on the favor of rulers, but justice comes to a man from Jehovah. 27. A righteous man is an abomination to an unrighteous man, and the direct way is an abomination to the sinner.